So originally I was trying to stay away from this topic because I felt like people were ready to move on and I went against my gut. But I feel like especially after the vote tonight, that it has to be addressed. It was very disappointing for Board Trustee Yu to abstain on the cultural competence training for teachers, specifically, after the comments that were made at the event at the Cerritos Public Library. And I think that it shows even more so the need for cultural competence because, as Dr. Mayfield pointed out in her presentation, incompetent teachers directly affect student achievement. Incompetent teachers directly affect our ability to support students' social emotional learning. And any good teacher knows that unless you connect with students and build rapport with them and build respect and trust with them, they don't care what's coming out of your mouth. They don't care the math lesson that you're giving. And so I teach 5th grade history. I'm a 5th grade teacher. If I were to get up and say in the middle of a history lesson that Blacks should get over slavery, that can do tremendous damage to my students. And unfortunately, there are teachers that do say culturally incompetent things similar to the things that Board Trustee Yu said at the library that causes detrimental effects on students, I being one of them. Part of my role as a community member, not just a teacher and not just as a parent, but as an ABC alum, is to reflect on the things that were done to me as a student. And I had it easier because my mom was a teacher. So a lot of teachers that said things to my fellow classmates that are also Black Americans, like we were there at Whitney for affirmative action reasons, even though we were admitted after affirmative action was already taken off the table. Or me being told by a teacher that taking a full scholarship to Cal State Long Beach was not only wasting the affirmative action opportunity that was given to me at Whitney, but was feeding into cultural stereotypes about Blacks not performing well. I was told that by my senior teacher at Whitney High School. And as a 35-year-old woman who is now teaching, I look at the fact that he was not culturally competent, which is why he felt like saying bigoted and ignorant things to me was okay. And so without the training, we're continuing that same cycle. I don't want to sit up here and have my son, who's currently an ABC student, tell me in 20 years, like I had to tell my mom, the things that teachers said to me behind closed doors. And without cultural competency training, these things go unchecked. Why? Because saying something like, you're an affirmative action admission, that has nothing to do with math. That has nothing to do with history. That has nothing to do with ELA. So when teachers are not provided the opportunities for cultural competency trainings and we're solely focusing on academic areas, we're allowing their implicit bias, we're allowing their unchecked and unwillingness to see outside of the box, right? This isn't again, a political issue. This is a moral human rights issue. And our students are not just suffering because of a reading achievement gap. Part of them are suffering because they're uninterested in what's being presented because they have a teacher who doesn't understand them. Dr. Rios said it perfectly. When we have students sitting in classrooms and learning curriculum that's not reflective of them, and they have teachers that cannot relate to them, they cannot relate to what's being taught. And while the board may not feel like cultural competency training is needed for them, and while saying things about saying culturally insensitive comments may not be an end-all be-all for the board, as teachers, it matters. We cannot continue to allow spaces where kids are harmed because of our own incompetence. And it's not just me who needs cultural competency training, because even as open and social justice mindset as I try to be, I still know that I have implicit bias, and I would hate to cause childhood trauma to another student because of my own ignorance. Thank you.
Can I respond, Madam President? No?
In general speaking, we don't like didactic,
Okay.
unless you insisted, then definitely I will let you do it. Do you want to?
Yeah, just quickly.
Hang on, point of order. I was asked her a direct question 2 meetings ago. You all told me that she was not allowed to respond to me. Point of order.
Okay, that's fine. For the peace sake, it's okay.
Not for the piece, but point of order. There's a difference between piece sake and point of order, Ms. There's a difference.
Excuse me, please control yourself. You're not in the podium. Mr. Sacido, I understand that very well. Please. Those as board president has the right to overriding that. That's just like a policy that time we can override. I respect you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Mr. Ray Gare?